Today we're going to talk about brainstorming and how you do that for a personal narrative. First thing to remember is the topic. Now our topic is a time when you met a new friend. And the I can statement today is I can brainstorm 3 narrative ideas. Now let me give you some ideas about how you can come up with strong ideas for a narrative. Now it has to be an interesting story. It needs to have a lot of details that you can remember. And it has to be a small moment. We're going to call a small moment anywhere from 1 minute to 4 hours. Probably a perfect amount of time is 1 to 2 hours. And so now let's talk about some examples. So let's take a 4th grader here named Jake, and let's look at some of his ideas and see what's good about them and what's maybe not so strong about them. All right, so he thinks of his first idea. I played with a boy at McDonald's one time. Second idea, I met a kid named Ross at the airport. Third, I met a Lucy in ECC3, but she moved away. And fourth, I met Sam at Ashley's birthday party. Let's get a teacher over and see what a teacher would think about these ideas. So a teacher's going to be looking for 3 things. Interesting story, lots of details, and is it a small moment? So the teacher would say, Jake, tell me about this idea. It sounds kind of like it's not interesting, but maybe I'm wrong. Tell me about this idea, Jake. So maybe Jake would say something like, I played with this boy one time at McDonald's, but it was because he was really sad, and that's how I met him. I actually saw him really sad in the corner, and I asked my mom, can I have some money to buy that kid an ice cream? I think he's really sad and having a bad day. So I went and bought him an ice cream, came back with it and gave it to him. He was so happy, and we ended up talking, and come to find out, he was actually moving away from his home just like I was moving away from my home. But he was moving to Australia and I was moving to China. So anyway, we played on the McDonald's playground for the next 30 minutes to an hour and had a good time. So then the teacher would say, oh, well, actually, that is an interesting story. You could write about that. You remember a lot of details, and it's a small moment because it's 30 minutes or to an hour. Good idea. Let's hear your next idea. Next idea, he talks about a kid he met named Ross. So remember, the teacher's looking for those 3 things. Well, I met this kid named Ross at the airport, and we played some games on the floor until our plane came. All right, well, do you remember anything else, Jake? Not a lot. I remember we played Jenga. Okay, it sounds like an interesting story, somewhat, but not a lot of details. Not sure you could use that unless you can remember more. But it is a small moment, so let's say no to this one for now because I don't think it meets all the requirements. Let's hear your next idea. I met Lucy in ECC3. But she moved away. Tell me more, Jake. Okay, well, Lucy came in the first day of school and she was crying, but I was also crying, and we were both crying because our moms had just left us and we were sad and we didn't know anybody there, so we're both crying. And as she's walking in, she knocks over the blocks, and I come over to help her pick them up, but then we start playing with the blocks, and it made us both stop crying. And we actually had a good time. It was about 10 or 15 minutes we played with blocks there. Oh, all right, that's a good idea, Jake. That is an interesting story. Seems like you remember a lot of details, and it is a small moment, though it might be too short. I will say that's a pretty good idea. Well, let's see what your last idea is. All right, I met Sam at Ashley's birthday party. All right, tell me more, Jake. All right, well, I went to Ashley's birthday party right before the beginning of school, and I was the only boy there besides another boy I'd never seen before. So Ashley introduced me to him. Turns out this kid named Sam, he loves Marvel just like I do. And we got to play with Legos for like an hour, and we made spaceships, and after that we got to eat some cake, and it was a really good time. I knew I had a good friend after I met him. All right, Jake, that sounds like a very interesting story. You remember a lot of details, and it is a small moment. That's a good idea. Good job, Jake. Now you're ready for the next step. So the next step would be writing this on the worksheet. So he could put each of these ideas on the worksheet, show his brainstorming, and then he would be ready for the next step. And the next step is read all of your ideas and choose the best one. Now remember, he's looking for these three things. And after he reads all his ideas, he finds that there's really only one that would be the best story, and it's idea number 4. So that's what he decides to do. So he raises his hand and tells his teacher, "All right, I'm finished. What do I do now?" And the teacher says, "You are finished. This looks like a good job, Jake. Now you can turn this in or upload it on Canvas. You're done. Good job."